What's good, y'all, and welcome to another vid. I did promise you I would do an updated tier list on who you should pick for the lucky pick, and we do have the big news that Kigiri's banner is also arriving, which means step number one before you even consider this is, can you afford to summon here, or should you rather save for a Kigiri? So keep that in mind. The Kigiri banner could be anywhere from next week to within 4 weeks. We gotta see, but Kigiri's banner is confirmed. It is on the way, so keep that in mind. Now, if you still have what it takes, be it you already finished Kigiri, you have enough summons saved, you don't care as much about the anniversary, let's talk about who you should pick and also who, in my opinion, are the two biggest scenarios. There's two specific ones where you really want to take advantage of this banner, and that is number one, what I would call the double AoE damage reduction, and that is if you have neither Fercy nor obviously Nerissa, the double damage reduction banner is pretty much the best thing you're going to be able to get out of this. So if you don't own a Fercy, putting a Fercy or a Nerissa on here would mean you have a 40% chance of walking away with a damage reduction unit, which is the best thing you're going to find unless they are going to rework the summoning system again and whatnot. But out of a 20x banner, this is pretty much just two top tier rated up units in Fercy and Nerissa. And then the second one is going to be Nerissa and Elowen. Yep, Elowen, she's still that important that Nerissa Elowen is overall still a very, very good banner option. Though, without further ado, let's get into the two tier lists. So the ones I brought you today are number one, the unowned one, and then number two, the summoning for awakenings list. Alright, so here we are on the unowned hero list. It goes from top to bottom, from most to least. Kind of in categories, you could say, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. That's pretty much the way you see this. Nerissa, don't worry why she's here, and also don't worry about Yao. Yao is just there for no reason, but Nerissa is pretty much someone that you could rather comfortably put into that very top tier right here, just so you have that on. So let's just go through the heroes, and we already talked about Elowen. Elowen, I mean, global rage region, incredible healing. Might even be possible to run Elowen and Nerissa instead of Fercy and Aelin. You gotta see. Then Hatset, I mean, she's still prevalent enough in PvE content that if you don't have a Hatset, getting a Nerissa and a Hatset is just too good a package deal. We already talked about Fercy, and obviously as soon as you have a Fercy, it's not true here anymore because this is unowned heroes, and as soon as you obviously pull a Nerissa, Fercy does drop out of it pretty much, right? As soon as you do pull a Nerissa, there's no reason to really go for Fercy anymore. Then Aelin, as uncomfortable as it is, but you still want the ultimate combo that is Aelin plus Nerissa. Aelin plus Nerissa is still the ultimate healing combo, and you're most likely not going to get around using Aelin in Abyss 1 even with a Nerissa. I guess the only thing that could contend it is potentially like an A3 or above Nerissa with the extra shielding, which might help you get through it. But overall, it's just so much damage in Abyss. Then we have Beelzebub. Beelzebub, just incredible range. You have the slow. You have him being a healer for the cultist faction. So him, yeah, his rework, it just took him from good to pretty good, right? Then we have Yuri. Yuri is, so yeah, obviously him mostly being gear rate 1, and then obviously with the introduction of Merrick's Hall of Illusions, he should be pretty good in that type of map because it's also about AoE damage. Then we got Yuri. Yuri mostly just because of AoE anti-air arena, and then obviously gear rate 3. We still have Silas. The way you still have to read this is you need a Vjörna first. You need a Vjörna first, otherwise Silas isn't going to perform the way he is here. If you don't have a Vjörna, if this was just Silas, he would probably be down here instead of up there. Magda just really good for GVG. Really nice penetration buff, destroys AMR, but main focus again, gear rate 1, the higher stages, just a crap ton of damage. Boreas is a bit of a weird one, because he is by far the best anti-heal hero, though he does regularly get shafted for no reason by the developers introducing the fact that, like, the CC immunity, right? What they do is they allow slows, they do cut the duration, but they still allow slows, but CC immunity, no freezes, meaning Boreas can't apply anti-heal, meaning he can't also proc his damage talent. So if you cannot freeze the target, Boreas is in trouble. But he's still good enough, and he's also valuable enough, and he has a very, very big role in Gear Rate 1, the same way that Magda and Beelzebub do. They all kind of do. Hex still raw single target damage, dominance in Gear Dungeon 2. His exclusive artifact is pretty much a must-have, but I mean, at the end of the day, out of that, there really isn't all that crazy amount of heroes that are like really good from the new heroes. So I mean, he still earns his space right there. Vienna, AOE execute. She together with Magda and Boreas and Beelzebub together is pretty much the formation for Gear Rate 1. It also looks like AOE content in general is getting more prevalent with the tower, where you can use her, with the Merrick's Hall of Illusion focusing mostly on AOE, with the United Front being an AOE challenge. So I hope it kind of looks like we are moving towards more endgame AOE usability, which was always, I would say, kind of a problem. And yeah, then we have the duo of Phineas and Numera. They are both kind of the same way that Percy and Nerissa are the same. So here you got a esotericist unit that does damage reduction, that does magic damage, and then you have a Inferno unit that does damage reduction, that does magic damage. Though Numera does do more damage than the Phineas, and she is also more consistent, especially if you don't have the exclusive artifact on Phineas. And Phineas does kind of need like that, at least that first awakening for that artifact to truly have like any reasonable uptime. Artemis, another unit for Gear Rate 1. But yeah, he's still the only damage dealing healer that also provides anti-heal. Yes, a very specific role, but it does come in quite helpful. Obviously, all these picks here, besides Boreas, also work incredibly well in Gear Dungeon 1. If you still haven't finished Gear Dungeon 1, another unit that is really, really good there is going to, or has to be, Beatrix. Beatrix with her AoE range, she's just able to basically solo the top lane on her own just with her basic attacks, and then use her flying summons to even deal with the bottom lane. So Beatrix, she's also really nice, though for example in Gear Rate 1 she's also not like really at the end, so that's why she's a bit further down. Then we have Vaughn. You could argue Vaughn being higher up. The real question though is how much do you value Abyss 1 on your account? Because his biggest the biggest thing he brings to your account is obviously the increased damage against shields. So if there are no shields, it obviously diminishes his value, though still he does a really, really good amount of magic single target damage even without any shields to consider. Then we got Edith. Edith is only here because she makes Gear Dungeon 2 easier, no real purpose besides it. I guess maybe Watcher Faction Trial, but even then not really. Sadie, strictly for higher stages of Gear Rate 2. Brock here, GVG and overall just best tank in the game. But then again, damage is more important than a tank. And also, the most used tank at the moment isn't Brock here, but Torador. But Torador is also Lord, and sadly you can't pick him here. Talon, she's still here, and I think it's still justified to at least have her on this list, because she still does a really good amount of magic damage. She has the Dispel, and she has also the ability for you to place her on the ground. And just the issue with her to an extent is they're just, or it's more of a game issue in general. There's just no landscape where you just want to clear a stage, kind of like campaign. I also really see Talon doing quite well in the hard and the expert levels of chapter 9 campaign, right? But same with Hex, But yeah, the real problem is there is not enough content where she could shine, but she's still really, really good. She's still one of my most favorite units. Yeah, pretty much. Then we got Volcra. Volcra is mainly there for the GVG side of things, even though she doesn't really see as much players anymore as she's seen, especially in the beginning of GVG. But then also her main use really does come down to just clearing Gear Dungeon 110, right? At some point you have to deal with the top lane, and then it's either going to be Volcra, Eris, Talon, or another combination of, for example, a anti-healer plus a damage dealer, or even just a Beatrix. So yeah, Gear Dungeon 110 mostly. Xena is just overall a deployable nuke, but she's also kind of in this awkward spot where she could be truly useful. There's always like a punishment for like losing a unit, right? Like if you were to place her down and take her out in, for example, Guild Boss 2 and Abyss 1, she just gets punished with an additional higher timer. So you cannot even just place her down and use her for damage, take her out and then place her down again. So yeah, she's kind of in a weird spot, but in just raw PvE content, like for example the tower, you can just place her down and she absolutely shreds. And she does have some viability in Gear Dungeon 2, the higher stages, when it comes to magic damage. Eris pretty much is just a different version of Volk mostly. Zarus just for raw burst cultist damage. And also I will revisit the cultist team in the AoE arena when that rotation rolls around, so stay tuned for that. And then we got Tallulah here. Like, you cannot forget about Tallulah. Tallulah is still pretty good. She does have the dispel, she has the damage reduction, she has the healing, she has also some potential for rage regen. Like, Tallulah really is kind of underrated at the moment, I would say. So now for the second one, which is going to be the Awakening one. Alright, so here for Awakenings, honestly, in my opinion, unless you're talking specifically just for GVG and like the high end and getting Awakenings there, these are kind of the only ones I would truly consider to pull on specifically for Awakenings. So we've got Beelzebub. Beelzebub's most important awakening is by far the A3, the ability to regenerate rage with basic attacks, giving him even higher uptime. The A3 is really crucial on him. Then we have the A3 on Elowin, which gives you the ability to cleanse with basic attacks, which can come in really useful, and overall is just huge quality of life, but it isn't really that necessary. Then we got Hex. Hex's most important ones here are obviously the A3 with the really long duration, and then the A5 for some additional damage, with his A1 also being really good. Then again, the clones of Phineas and Numera. Numera getting a bit of a damage increase with the A1, a huge damage increase with the A3. Phineas getting or needing that A1 for him to get the damage increase, but also the consistency that is necessary for his exclusive artifact to work. Then you've got Twyla down here, just because Twyla gets such a huge jump in damage once you just get her to A1, and also the fact that now with Nerissa we are hopefully able to make use of more fighters in Abyss 1, which would open up a spot for Twyla alongside a Kigiri and a Wukong, for example, because at the moment it's just Kigiri and Wukong and you don't really have space for anybody else, specifically also with Numera and Phineas being a thing. Then you got Vaughn Awakenings. If everything goes well and Nerissa does provide the proper healing for Abyss 1, then Vaughn's Awakenings, where he has the ability to provide a shield buff to more people, is also, yeah, I mean, it's going to be worth it. And also his A1 going from a 30 to a 40% shield buff it's just an increase overall. It's just going to help you, though he is in the least category. And then strictly for GVG and Brock here being Brock here, it would be kind of like you making your way towards like an A5 Brock here to, truly make anything work. Like, honestly, I am quite... someone we cannot forget is probably Aelin. Like, for whatever reason, the devs like to make use of incredibly big ranges, and that's where A3 Aelin comes in. And that is because Aelin does give the... she kind of fills out her range at the edges, these like 4 open corners into like a perfect square. And that can come in very, very handy in Abyss. And overall, I mean, but it's more of a like quality of life. It depends, right? It is at least prevalent enough. And then out of the rest of the units, if we go through them, like Artemis, Ares. Ares's A1 would be quite useful for the increased range, but at that point, And then we got Artemis. Beatrix is just whatever. Boreas would be great, but nothing you would specifically hunt for. Same with Constance, Edith, Fercy, Hatset, Magda. Nerissa Awakenings. I mean, Nerissa's on the banner, right? There's no reason, like if you're summoning on the banner, going for Nerissa Awakenings, being Nerissa Awakenings. And then let's see. So Sadie Awakenings are also pretty much fine. I guess the only one you would really go for is the A1. Silas's damage increase through Awakenings isn't big enough that I would say it's justified. Talon doesn't quite need them as much. Tallulah doesn't really need them. Unless you were to go to something like A3. Volcra, you don't need the A1 at all. Viana also not as big, Zarus not as big, Xena not as big, Yuri not as important, and Diao obviously isn't in the pool. So this is kind of where I would let it stay when it comes to just summoning for Awakenings, which, especially with Kigiri coming, is definitely a luxury. Peace!